Hi everybody, it's Claire back with another art journal video, and in this one I'm creating a page in the small craft journal, and I'm going to kind of just show you how sometimes I calm down a background when it goes a bit too dark and a bit too in your face, I suppose. Sometimes those kind of backgrounds aren't a problem, and sometimes I set out to create backgrounds like that. This time I didn't, and that was what happened, and it's quite an easy thing to fix, and you can do it with stencils and lighter shades of the colours that you have already put on your background. So I've added some collage paper onto the background to start off with, and then I'm using Blackberry from Dina Wakley. This is one of my favourite colours. I love purple. So I'm adding some of this onto my page, and then I'm using the pointed stencil. I'm just lifting a bit of that paint off using a baby wipe. This is a really great way to begin to get some pattern onto your page. And you can see I was just cleaning myself as well. I managed to paint my arm. So then I'm using some white, and the brush still had some blackberry on it. So rather than wash it away, I've mixed it with the white and created almost like a slightly darker shade of the heather that Dina has. And I'm just brushing that across the page as well. Now I'm going to use the stencil in a different direction and do the same technique again, so lifting more paint through the stencil, creating quite a nice layered pattern background. And then give that a quick dry, and then I'm going in with heather. So this is where I'm starting to kind of calm this down a bit, because it's gone quite dark, and I do like it, but I just think once I get my focal point on there it'll be too busy. So again, doing the same technique, just lifting some of that paint away, and you can see this has already started to kind of bring a bit of calmness to the background. So also just changing the direction of your stencil, particularly when you've got one like this that is a directional one. You can even do it diagonally. You know, there's nothing that says you have to do it straight up or down. Just play around with mixing your supplies up a bit, trying things that you've not done before. This is one of the coaster stencils, so here I am going to use some turquoise. So now I'm starting to add a little bit of contrast onto the page. Turquoise is one of my favourites. I love it. Oh, this is angled paint blobs, another directional stencil. I was obviously feeling I needed some direction this day. Quite no, didn't realise I'd used quite so many. And I'm just adding some stenciling, coming down from the top of the page down to the bottom, using a blending tool to just pull that colour through the stencil. Okay, so now I'm using white, and just pulling a little bit of this white through the page as well. I'm only putting the blending tool gently onto the page. I don't really want a heavy layer of white stenciling here, but you can see this background is quite layered. There's lots of things going on, but it isn't too dark. And now I'm just adding some white dots as well. This is another way that you can calm things down, is adding lots of white to your page. It brings that contrast, but also it can bring that kind of calmness too. So don't forget, if you use acrylic paint on your stamps, just to give them a good clean. I know I'm always going on about it, but it is very important because it will affect how your stamps work. So then this is a face from one of Dina's collage tissue packs. I'm not sure which one it's from. There are so many. And so here I'm starting off adding some white paint, and I think I'm actually going to stick the collage paper down using the white paint. I'm popping it underneath where the face is, just so that I am not sticking it in place and having those purple colours come through onto the face. This is quite a nice way to kind of create that little spot of calmness for an image like this. And rather than using the gel medium, I thought, well, the paint will be wet, I'm just going to put the image straight on it. So I'm adding the paint with one brush and then going in with a dry brush and just pressing the image into it. I'm pulling the paint to the top and bottom of the page, and just so that it connects and it's all fitting together. And then I'm just adding some kind of scribbly, sketchy lines around the side of the face. And then I decided I'd do a bit of journaling on the side too, using the Posca pen, just scribbling down a few thoughts. It's one of the things I do like about art journaling. It's that ability to just empty your head of those things that are on your mind. Then I'm using a Neo Colour 2, just adding a little bit of colour onto the face. With a water brush, just picking up the pigment and then brushing it around. I did go in a few more times. I dried in between each layer and then went in with slightly darker colours just to give a bit of shadow, give a bit more depth to the face. But really, when I'm doing a page like this, I'm not particularly worried about creating a lifelike looking face. Just playing really and adding those little bits of shadow and touches of colour just to create the impression. So now I'm just using a text stamp and I'm just going in and adding some little areas of black archival ink text stamping, doing a bit of overstamping as well. I'm only using part of the stamp, I'm not using the whole thing. Really is just about kind of creating little ideas of stamping. Then I've just got this piece of card and it's got little bits of leftover paint on it, so I've decided I would cut some hearts out of it to go on the page, and they're going to then have some stamping added onto them using the stamp set from Dina Wakley called Stenciled Alphas. I'm using the black archival ink again and I'm just stamping that onto the heart, so popping them onto a piece of paper and then stamping that all over. Kind of a nice way to create an extra add-on for your page to do something like that, and it kind of starts to pull the elements of the page together because I'm going to be using the text stamp from the same set on another part of the page. So then I'm just sticking these in place using some of my glue. I'm overlapping that with the face, as you can see, and I'm hiding some of that journaling, but I'm really not, doesn't matter. It served its purpose, and now it's gone. Then once they're dry, I'm going around with a Signo Uniball in white, so that again just draws the attention to those hearts. I'm kind of sorry it keeps going off screen a little bit. I think I must have been filming on my phone as well at the same time. So here I'm using a Tombow marker and I'm just going around one side with a really light grey, just creating a small amount of shadow. Then I stamped these words on and I was like, oh, good grief, the first one, I stamped it upside down. It's gone off screen, you can't quite see it. I was like, oh, for goodness sake, that's really annoying. And then I was thinking, right, okay, there it is. It doesn't matter. And then I was like, it really does matter. So once it was dry, I've grabbed some white and I'm just going over it. And then because I did that one, I thought, right, okay, those ones don't work now, so they're going to have to disappear too. Obviously, I'm disappearing parts of my background as well, but it doesn't matter, does it? Not really. So they're still there a little bit, but they're almost like background text now. So you see, accidents happen, and sometimes I can embrace them and sometimes I absolutely can't, and I have to undo the accident. So going back in and stamping it the right way up this time, and actually I think it does work better now it's on that little white background. It's a bit more obvious to see. And then I'm going in and writing my quote. So before I started writing, I did kind of just work out whether it was going to fit, and it just did. this page is definitely me working through some big feelings about my middle child moving out and going to university. Yeah, so they've been there a fortnight now, and yeah, I don't know, I think we're doing all right. They're settled in really well and seem quite happy, although they're not very well at the minute, but that's to be expected too. Obviously miss them, but super proud and happy that they're following what they want to do. So yeah, but this journal page was kind of just me trying to work through some feelings really. So then this is just some splatters of, I'm thinking that's probably a neon. I think it might be stoked. I just watered it down a little bit, and that works quite well. Yes, it is on this page. And there we go. There's the finished page. So it really started off as quite a dark background and ended up being quite calm with all those elements of white and correcting the little mistakes. But lots of fun to create. So I hope you've enjoyed watching the video. I hope you found some inspiration, and I hope to see you again soon.